have you here. And we have never gone into this kind of depth before with academic advising. So this is the first of 7 monthly advising seminars. And we're very excited to have you here. As most of us do when we have a group gather, we like to introduce ourselves. And I'll tell you a little bit more about myself, and Julie, you can talk about yourself. I'm the Department Head for Educational Counseling and Disability Services, and we have been charged with the additional duty, besides providing educational counseling, career counseling, and disability assistance to our students on campus. We've been charged with academic advising. So it's a very exciting thing. And we've maintained and created the academic advising guide, but now we really get to follow through on Ferris's philosophy on academic advising and training. It's one of those aspects. So that's a little bit about myself.
I'm Julie Rudolph. I work in the Center in Educational Counseling and Disability Services as a counselor. I've been at Ferris for about 5 years, and through what I do, I have a lot of exposure to all the different support services that are on campus, do a lot of referrals to different areas, so that's kind of where the expertise that I'm going to share with you today about those different support services.
I'll just explain to you very briefly. This brochure that I'm showing on the dot cam was sent out electronically, and hard copy should be delivered to you soon. But one thing I want to bring to your attention is the 7 seminars that we have talked about earlier today. The dates are here, and these are still online, so you can go to the URL, which is attached to the academic advising guide. Those sessions should be held in this room, and all sessions are going to be recorded. So if you have colleagues who said, I just couldn't make it, or I wish I would have gone, it sounds like you're going to break it all up probably by the time we're done here. Those sessions will be recorded, and we'll send out an announcement about where you can access that. We hope one of the lures for bringing you here was professional development incentive money. And so those incentives are here listed in this document also. So the 7 sessions to receive professional development incentive money, you would need to attend 6 of those sessions. Of those 6 sessions, we are providing you with an opportunity for homework, and that homework then is part of that PDI money. So there are 5 homework sessions that you would need to respond to. And in a few minutes, Julie's going to talk about the deliverables, as they call them here. The Faculty Center calls them the deliverables. There would need to be 5 of those. And they're easy. They're based on the information you'll be learning today and your personal experience as advisors, which is so valuable to be able to apply what you're learning and see how that might change some things for you as an advisor in the future. Of those deliverables, then, you would be eligible to have an $850 travel block grant if you wanted to present something at a conference. So it could be a conference that's criminal justice, and they're talking about advising and some of the things that you might be doing. Or it could be that you could attend one of the conferences at the bottom of this document, the National Academic Advising Association. This year I'm going, it's always held in October, and that session is in Denver this year. We also have a Michigan Academic Advising Association. Those meetings, I'm not real happy with the timing. It's the end of the spring semester, usually around May 16th. But you get to talk with other advisors that are typically in your advising type area, such as the College of Business or an engineering type background. But without giving a presentation or delivering a paper or some kind of activity at a conference dealing with advising, you would be able to have $700 towards going to that conference. So those details are all here in this brochure, and that is in your folders. That should be the first item when you turn that in. Julie, did I forget anything?
I don't think so.
All right.
I will pass out the most important part of this whole seminar, and that's how you can get that PDI money. So the things that we want you to get out of this seminar today is to be able to identify specific Ferris support offices and the functions of each office, determine the key questions to ask students for appropriate academic and personal referrals, describe the academic, social, and educational needs of specific student populations, and identify the roles and responsibilities of the university, the advisor, and the student as it pertains to academic advising. So the deliverables, we've got a couple of case scenarios there for you. These are just hypothetical student situations, and we want you to provide us with a very in-depth response to how you would deal with this student using the learning outcomes. So there's 4 learning outcomes, and we're asking for 4 paragraphs. That's one alternative. The other one is provide a feedback to the question, if we only had this support service for students or faculty. So if you know of another university or another college that has this great support service that we are not implementing here at Ferris, if you could write up a little essay about that and send it to us, that would be great. So we're asking for these in about 2 weeks, so September 29th, and you can email those to Deb and myself. Deb's email is coxd, C-O-X-D, @ferris.edu, and mine is simply Julie Rudolph, JULIERUDOLPH @ferris.edu. And if we could get those in about 2 weeks, that would be wonderful. Questions about your homework or PDI money? Excellent, and we'll move right along. Okay. Okay, this is the Student Support Services Guide, and this is what we're going to keep referring back to as we talk about a lot of these support services, because a lot of them are listed right here on this brochure. And I'm actually going to back up a little bit to show you how you get to it. And this is subject to change because the website's going to be changing. But right now, if you go under academics, under academic colleges, university college, under Student Support Services Guide. So that's how I usually get to it. And this is what I'll kind of keep referring back to because it has the location of these offices and the phone number, and for a lot of them, a little description of the things that they do. So, okay. And then Deb will tell you a little bit about the Academic Advising Guide.
December 2010, the provost approved our philosophy statement for academic advising. It's something that we worked on for about 3 years. And as a part of that, we're going to talk about that in greater length. Since that was done in December, we haven't really had a chance to put together a complete academic advising website. So our guide has been online for many years. And this is the place you're going to go when you're looking for information. We try to put it together in sections that are going to make sense, but that's always subject again to whoever's looking for something is how they might organize it. So eventually, shortly, we hope, maybe by sometime in spring, we hope to have an entire advising website so that you'll be able to find information very clearly, all these recordings, but at this point, the advising guide is the place to go to if you're looking for factual information, policies, tools here for advising registration. It's a great place to get information, but we're hoping to make it even better. So,
now I'm going to go back and start talking to you a little bit about, first off, the Academic Support Center. The Academic Support Center, a lot of students know that we have tutoring here, but they might not know where the tutoring is housed. And that is on the first floor of the Arts and Science Commons, room 1017. And we offer tutoring in all subjects. Now, if it's a subject like a math or a science where typically people always want to get tutoring, there'll probably be tutors already hired and available for those classes. For some other people, maybe they're looking for something for a very specific class that isn't always commonly taken, or people don't always ask for tutors in that class. If it's a little bit more specialized, like something in engineering technology or one of the professional programs in allied health or something like that. In that instance, we can still get a tutor for that person, or Jane can still find a tutor for that person. They would just have to go to their professor, ask for a recommendation of somebody maybe who's taken the class, and then fill out a form to get that person hired through the tutoring center. Also in the Academic Support Center, there are study skills workshops, and a lot of students are not aware of that. Things on note-taking, time management, test-taking, memory, textbook reading. They have a paraprofessional, Marcia Schuberg, who works in small groups with students on each of these areas, so they can get individualized instruction. So if you have students who are talking about, wow, I have this huge load this semester, I'm taking 19 credits, and I just don't know how to stay on top of things, referring them to Marcia might be a good idea. Or, you know, if they're talking about not being able to keep up with the notes or struggling with some tests that they're taking, Marcia Schuberg in the Academic Support Center can help with that. So anything that's tutoring or specific study skills, the Academic Support Center can help with that.
Okay. And that brochure that we're looking at, you are welcome to print that off. Okay, we print it as a double-sided document, and we put that in all orientation folders for new students coming in, and the parent folders, and for our office when we have guests that come maybe inquiring about disability services. That's in there also, because it's kind of a one-stop shop document that you don't have to keep going to websites. You can print it, hand it to somebody, and then I usually will go through, just like we are today, go through and talk about what we have here, and sometimes that's just a great recruiting tool also to say how a student can be successful here.
Now I'm going to talk about what we do in the Educational and Career Counseling Center and Disability Services. Through the Educational and Career Counseling Center, we help a lot of students who are undecided or maybe questioning their major. We have a couple of career assessments that they can take for free, that they can go over those results with a counselor and talk about what some different ideas might be. So if you have a student who isn't really sure that they're even in the right major, refer them to us, because they can take some free assessments and talk about that. We also have, and I'll pass out these flyers in a second, for students who are on academic probation, we have a Strategies for Success workshop, and this is typically on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 11 o'clock. And students come in, they take a couple of assessments looking at their learning style and their approach to, and their approach to college life, approach to academic learning. So that measures them on things like time management, attitude, motivation, things like that. And then after they get done taking these assessments, they set up an appointment with a counselor to go over those results and come up with a plan for them to be successful for this semester, maybe to get off academic probation. Yes, Annette?
Are these only for students that are on probation? Can other students attend?
I'm very glad you asked that. Thank you. No, this is open to everybody.
Okay.
Students on academic probation sometimes are required to go to these sessions. There are other groups that might be required to go to these sessions too, students who are on honors probation. In the past, we've worked with first-year student athletes where they've come to the sessions. But it's open to anybody who thinks that they're really struggling in their classes and might need a little bit of extra help, especially if they're not sure where to begin with that help. This might be a good place to start because of the assessments.
I'd like to ask Annette, you're asking that question for maybe a reason. What are you thinking?
Well, I teach FSUS. I have a 100 class, so I already went through a handout that I had given to the students, read through them, and they're already questioning and struggling and wondering if they're in the right profession. So, if they're in the right track.
And for that program, we design it for students that are on probation, but we have another program that we bring to freshman seminar courses that talks about their learning style and study strategies. And so if that's something that you would like us to come and speak to your freshman seminar about, it's similar to this, only this, they've got the grade point average and they've got the time here at the university, so they already know what they are doing right. And sometimes they can't always figure out what they've done wrong, or maybe they know what they've done wrong. So that program, you sit face to face with somebody, one-on-one, and that's why it's like they've already tested the waters and they know. I should have went to tutoring, so then you can talk about, well, what are you doing this semester? What do you need tutoring for? So that's the design of that. But if any of you ever wanted something brought to your classroom, such as a freshman seminar, learning styles, we'd be glad to do that. We do a lot of that. We probably present that 30 times a semester.
I do a lot of is working with students with disabilities. And it's important for you to know that we're there, because you might have a student in your office saying, well, I think I have a learning disability or something like that. I don't know where I can go to get help. They go up to our office on the 3rd floor, star 313, and we can work with them on setting up classroom accommodations and things like that. So, great. Thank you, Julie.
I got a quick question. I
Yes.
received a student visa from a student.
Oh, yes.
Talk to them privately about it a little bit, just so I have a better understanding of what his needs are. But I don't want to embarrass him in front of the rest of the class or anything like that. I mean, is there any tips on?
Well, what you did was perfect as far as talking to him privately. What I encourage students to do when they get the Verified Individualized Services Accommodation or visa form is to go to their professor's office hours and talk to them individually, so that they're not trying to catch them after class when other people are standing around. And then they can sit down, talk to the professor, and say, this is what I need in my classes. These are my individual needs. And there shouldn't be any reason why they would have to be singled out in the classroom. Does that kind of answer your question?
I'm good with that.
All right, thank you.
I just have a question on the visa, and it's real simple.
Okay.
You get it, you talk to the student, they say, oh, yeah, I have, but it's all right. Then you give an exam, you say, okay, do you want a special accommodation? No. The exam's over, but now they want time. In my class, I'm sorry, that's it. Because you got to make that decision prior to giving that exam. You can't let that person sit in that room after that.
Yes,
I agree.
That's correct.
All right.
But
And they come back and said, but I had this. I said, and I asked you about it, and you said you didn't need it. That's
but
your
the
decision.
student may want it for the second exam,
And that's fine.
and that's fine. But no, there's no going backwards.
Exactly.
They have to.
Okay.
And that's one of the challenges sometimes with new freshmen is they don't really understand what that benefit is. And so sometimes they want to try it the first time without any accommodation, and then they have to live with that grade. Alrighty, tuition incentive program. How many of you have heard of TIP? Can anybody describe what that is?
It's basically for the first 2 years.
TIP funding will help students in their first 2 years, and then they can go through with their bachelor's degree. And it's a state program that a student would have qualified for in middle school or high school based on socioeconomic level and Medicaid benefits and that type of thing. So they do have tuition incentive that they can bring here to Ferris. This year, I don't remember the exact number, but it's over 800 students attending Ferris are TIP recipients. So we have the largest pool of TIP students in the state of Michigan. And that attractiveness is because of the number of associate degree programs we have. So they, and a lot of times those students need guidance and need help as how to maximize their benefit and keep their benefit before jumping into a bachelor's degree. Because if they don't complete phase one of TIP, they won't get the phase 2. So we do have to guide them. And Judy Watson is fairly new to the university. She was hired in January. So she is the key person. And rather than have you answer the questions about TIP, I always do, send them to Judy because she is our one-stop resource that works with financial aid and other agencies that can help the student be successful. Ferris received a national award for creating the SLA program, and how this is different maybe from other universities is, other universities have, they have a structured situation, but they really did not connect it with a class per se, nor did they provide a paraprofessional who teaches that 2-session, 1.5-hour redo of the coursework. And the real teeth of it is that they have to attend the SLA sections, that additional section, they have to. And it's usually about a 4 absence limit, because if you don't go for the help, you aren't going to be successful. So since 1994, we've been tracking students, and we know what programs and what classes do best with SLA, and when we find out through our statistics and comments what's working or what isn't working, we address any issues that might come up. So it's a highly successful program that Ferris has replicated and gone to other universities across the country or community colleges. So it's nice to be number 1.
And the student doesn't have to go to the SLA sessions in most classes if they maintain a grade set by the instructor.
Correct. In fact, this past year, I believe in one of the chemistry classes, if you were getting less than an A-, you had to come. So the bar is set. And this was a chemistry class, because if you aren't going to do well in Chemistry 103, you aren't going to do well higher up. So that was the idea, is that the professor's success level was much higher than most people. Usually it's a C.
One thing you should know about is the Personal Counseling Center. That is located over at the Burkham Health Center on the 2nd floor. So if you have students in your office and you feel like they're really having some serious personal issues beyond what you as an advisor really feel comfortable talking to them about, then you can either give them the phone number to the counseling center, which is on here, or if it's very serious, you can walk them over. If it's something where you think this person's in a serious situation, they need to talk to someone right now, you can walk them over to Burkham Health Center up on the 2nd floor, and they can get in to see a counselor. They ask that you don't do that at about 4:30, but anytime between 8 and 5. I think they are out for lunch from 12 to 1. So there's a couple times during the day where you don't have that option to walk them directly over, but at any other time during the day, that is an option. Another thing I want to talk about briefly is Multicultural Student Services. They do a lot of different things through their office, such as advocacy for students, multicultural students, minority students. So if you have a student who feels they might need some advocacy in that way, a referral to the Multicultural Student Services might be a good idea. They also do stuff with leadership development, mentorship. That's a big one that might be helpful for some of the minority students. You might be aware of a lot of the cultural awareness stuff that they do. They do, I think every month they do some type of awareness. And they also have things that they do with the high schools and outreach there too. So if you have a student who thinks they might need some help because they are a minority or they make comments like that, it might be a good idea to refer them to Multicultural Student Services.